Good morning and welcome to 7 at 7 from the Economic Times podcasts, a daily financial news capsule to get you clued in for the day. It's Thursday, the 19th of September, and I am your host, Bhaskar Datta. In major global developments, it's finally happened. The US Federal Open Market Committee has reduced interest rates for the first time since the COVID crisis broke out in 2020. Following one of its most unpredictable policy meetings in years, the Fed cut benchmark interest rates by 50 basis points, a rate cut which was on the higher end of market expectations. Crucially, for markets and economies around the world, Fed Chair Jerome Powell said that he doesn't see anything in the US economy at the moment that suggests the likelihood of a downturn, and that growth in the country was at a solid rate. In the weeks preceding the Fed's statement, global markets had swung wildly as different data sets led to speculation over whether the world's largest economy was headed for a recession or for a much talked about soft landing, which implies least damage from the rate hikes of the past 2 years. Remember, US interest rates have an impact on borrowing costs around the world. For emerging markets like India, a soft landing in the US is a desirable scenario, as the Fed's rate cuts would likely drive global investment into relatively higher yielding financial assets at home. The US dollar was volatile after the Fed statement, initially trading lower, but then recovering after Powell's press conference. Asian equity markets are bracing for gains today after the Fed's long-awaited rate cut, with Japanese equity futures climbing, Bloomberg reported. Speaking of elections, US presidential candidate Donald Trump said at a campaign event on Tuesday that India was a very big abuser of the US-India trade relationship, even as he shared plans of meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi next week. The Republican presidential candidate made the announcement on Tuesday, USA time, while campaigning in Michigan. PM Modi is a fantastic man, said Trump, but at the same time called India a very big abuser of trade ties, stressing that the country imposes heavy tariffs on imports. This is not the first time that Trump has highlighted this matter. As president, Trump had raised the issue of tariffs imposed by India on imports, including on Harley-Davidson bikes. Number 3. There's more on elections, but this time from home. The Union Cabinet has approved the One Nation, One Election proposal, which recommends simultaneous polls for Lok Sabha, state assemblies, and local bodies in a phased manner. In its report submitted to the government in March this year, the committee had recommended simultaneous polls for the Lok Sabha and state assemblies as the first step, followed by synchronized local bodies within 100 days. Here's ET's latest from Deal Street. The promoters of the jubilant Bhartia group have emerged as frontrunners for a stake in Coca-Cola's India bottling arm, beating an offer by the Burmans of Dabur. The pizza to pharma company recently signed a deal with Coca-Cola to negotiate the purchase of a significant minority stake of up to 40% in Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages for Rs 10,800 to 12,000 crore, which is around $1.3 to $1.4 billion. It seems Bollywood is really counting on Swiggy to deliver. Media reports say that Madhuri Dixit has picked up shares in the food and grocery delivery startup ahead of its public market debut later this year. Dixit has bought shares in the secondary market along with Ritesh Malik, founder of Innovate, a co-working space now owned by Oyo. Remember, earlier this month, the family office of Amitabh Bachchan had also bought shares in the company. There's more on the IPO front. India's NTPC Green Energy filed draft papers for a 10,000 crore rupee initial public offering. This year, about 235 companies have gone public and raised more than $8.6 billion, which is higher than the total amount raised last year, Reuters reported. The filing comes at a time when power producers are betting big on renewables and making pledges to expand their green energy capacities. Remember, the government is aiming to add at least 500 gigawatts of clean energy by 2030 to reduce emissions. We'll end with a stat that shows India's growing presence in global financial markets. India has overtaken China in another key global equity benchmark after surpassing it in the MSCI Emerging Markets Investable Market Index earlier this month. The weight of Indian stocks in the MSCI AC World Investable Market Index touched 2.35% on Wednesday, as against China's 2.24%, as the continued strong showing by equities in Mumbai have led to more local stocks in the indices. The MSCI AC World IMI includes large, mid, and small cap representation across 23 developed markets and 24 emerging markets, with 8,815 constituents. The US leads the index with a 63% weight, followed by Japan, the UK, Canada, and France. That's all for today. Thank you very much for tuning in to 7 at 7 from the Economic Times podcasts.